Many of us, when we consider the immune system, we think about something that travels around in our blood and protects us. And while that's partially true, that is not the majority of where our immune system exists. And then when we further consider our immune system, many of us will think that, well, I was born with a good immune system, or I was born with a bad immune system, I get colds easily. And we maybe don't think about the fact that even something like a cancer is a dysfunction of the immune system, or autoimmunity is a dysfunction of the immune system in overdrive. And so when we consider these conditions, from getting sick often to autoimmunity to cancer, they actually have a common pathway, which is how our immune system is functioning. And so from there, we'll often think, well, that's my mother or my father that gave me a particular immune system, and I'm locked in place with that. In fact, most of our immune system is not traveling around in our blood, and most of our immune system is not genetically determined. Our immune system is determined by what is in our gut and our microbiome. What we're learning is that the bacteria in our gut begin to develop as we get older. And so when we're a baby, when we first come onto this planet, we have a very immature microbiome. But as we age, that microbiome also ages, and when that occurs, gets less functional. So much immune fragility that we have when we're first born mimics immune fragility that we'll have when we're more geriatric, and it's from the same source. It's from our microbiome, not our genetics. In fact, the genetics that are often influenced by the bacteria that's in our gut, and so we have the opportunity to cause genetics to either increase or decrease based on healthy or dysfunctional bacteria. What we're learning is that there's a concept known as immunosenescence, and this is when the immune system declines. It's a process of aging, but not a process of aging of our own cells, a process of aging of the organism within us, the microbiome. And so that microbiome, that bacteria, interacts with our gut. When it interacts with our gut, it tells our gut to make something called secretory IgA that makes up 85% of our immune system, lining the gut, our first barrier protecting us from bacteria, virus, parasites, from anything getting into our body. Our first line defense is the bacteria that is in our gut that protects us. From there, if we have good, healthy bacteria, it will communicate with our immune cells. It will tell different parts of the immune system, like T cells, which way to grow, which way to expand, so they know how to fight the fight. So they know how to fight a bacterial infection or a viral infection. But without the proper bacteria, without the correct microbiome, we lack the conductor to direct our immune system. So as we get older, as that microbiome dies off, we will not control our own white blood cells as well, and this process is called inflammaging. And as we inflammage, what it means is that over the course of our life, the microbiome is not directing our immune system as well. And when that occurs, we will create more free radicals. There will be more toxic products from the immune system, and we'll be less able to fight the battle. So in fact, when we want to think about causing ourselves to be more immune boosted or to be more immune competent in the world of colds and flus, or if we want to be able to weed out cancer cells before they ever go on to become something that's life-threatening, the answer lies in our microbiome and in the good flora within our body. That battle continues to be fought right there at the gut lining, communicating between the outside world and our inside world, our immune cells. And when that communication stops, when that microbiome begins to die off, this is when we see the immune system change. Components that are impacted by this also play a role in longevity, and what we see is that as the microbiome ages, this is what causes us to be more frail. It's not our own cells that are slowing down, but more what's happening in our microbiome, more that dictates this concept of immunosenescence, this concept that plays a role in terms of longevity. So this fragility will happen when the microbiome dies off, and as that occurs, we're no longer able to control inflammation. Things like interleukins and cytokines that can contribute to weight gain or fatigue, but also aging will run haywire. A second thing that happens with our immune system when the microbiome is not in place is that it can't stay balanced. We don't want our immune system completely off because then we would get sick. We also don't want our immune system completely on or in overdrive because that is autoimmunity, when the immune system is ramped up and is attacking our own tissue. So, part of the signaling that helps decide which branch of the immune system will be dominant or whether or not we're in balance comes from that bacteria sending the right signals to make the right type of immune cells to keep us from being too high or too low, right in the middle. In fact, some of the testing that we can look at that will tell us where our immune system is at has to do with not our own white blood cells, but the bacteria in our gut. We can look at things like comprehensive digestive stool analysis, and we can measure bacteria like Bifidobacter and Lactobacillus. And if we see patients that have very low amounts or no growth of these, what that tells me is that these are patients that are on the autoimmune continuum. Without that normal healthy flora, even in the absence of anything bad, no pathogen, nothing hurting your system, but just the absence of your own healthy bacteria, you're more likely to get autoimmune conditions, things like rheumatoid arthritis or celiac disease, Crohn's disease, all become more likely in a world with less of the right bacteria. We also know other ways that this helps us to immune prime. For example, if somebody has severe allergies, a therapy that will be offered to them is desensitization. This desensitization can be done through injections or under the tongue, sublingual immunotherapy. And in this therapy, the person is exposed to bits of allergens, things from the environment like pollen or dander, and they build up a tolerance. The way the tolerance is improved is by having this small exposure, but what we also know is when desensitization is done alongside giving probiotics or good flora like lactobacillus, there's an 80% improvement in outcomes. Again, this shows us that it's that when we have the right bacteria in place, this is critical to balancing the immune system, can reduce autoimmune conditions, but is a known player in terms of reducing our risk of allergies as well. The microbiome controls and keeps in place and prevents bad guys from taking over. Bad bacteria make compounds called lipopolysaccharides, and these lipopolysaccharides interfere with our immune activity. They bind to immune cells that regulate function. They bind to something called Treg cells and decrease their activity. Decreased activity of Treg cells is one of the major hallmarks of autoimmune conditions. It's one of the reasons the immune system doesn't stay in balance. We have to have our good warriors fighting for us, keeping the bad guys at bay if we want our immune system to be healthy, not in overdrive, not too low, but balanced right in the middle. In terms of cancer cells are formed daily in our body. And in fact, what has to happen is a healthy immune system weeds out these cells and keeps them from growing, keeps them from taking over. A single cancer cell is not a threat. A tumor is. Having our microbiome in place puts in place the immune system that we need to protect us from these cancer cells. Bacteria that form lactic acid, like lactobacillus, help to influence natural killer cells, the ones that travel around and weed out these cancer cells before they ever become a problem. This bacteria also influences T cells, and these T cells, like Pac-Man, engage in something called Fagositosis. This is eating up of those pre-cancer cells, and the healthier our microbiome, the stronger the phagocytosis, the stronger the eating of the cancer cell. So, from autoimmunity to cancer to even low immune function, it's the microbiome that determines 85% of our immune system. In fact, the immune system of the gut will deal with more protein in the day than our systemic immune system will see in a lifetime. When we think about how to be immune competent, the way that we can keep the immune system in balance is not necessarily through things that of different vitamins or botanicals. Yes, those help, but we have to be mindful of our microbiome as the root cause for where we gain immune balance. So as we age, it's not just our cells that age, but our microbiome that ages as well. And what we know is when the microbiome ages, this is where immune systems begin to become more weak. As we age, not only are we more likely to get colds or flus, this is the time we're more likely to get cancers as well. So if we think about our microbiome and what they like to eat and how they can thrive, if we continue to focus on a healthy microbiome, we'll turn back the clocks of aging, particularly the effects of aging on our immune system. We are not our mother or our father's immune system waiting to have the sickness that they had or the cancer that we had. In fact, we are the immune system of our microbiome, not our own genetics, but something that we have a large ability to influence.